My name is Emily, and until that Saturday morning, I believed I understood exactly who my husband, Daniel, was. 3 days earlier, I'd been discharged from the hospital after emergency abdominal surgery, still struggling to walk without pain. My doctor had warned me to avoid lifting anything heavier than a gallon of milk and insisted I spend at least 2 weeks recovering. I thought Daniel understood. Instead, while I rested on the couch, he looked at his phone and casually announced, "This Saturday, all 12 members of my family are staying here for 2 weeks. My heart sank immediately, sensing this wasn't simply a family visit. It was the beginning of something far worse. I stared at him, convinced I'd misunderstood. "Daniel, I can barely stand for 10 minutes, I whispered, pressing a pillow against my healing incision. "Please ask them to come next weekend instead. I'll be stronger by then." He didn't even glance away from his screen. Instead, a smug smile spread across his face. "Nobody is changing their plans because you're sore," he replied coldly. "You'll cook, clean, and make sure everyone feels welcome. That's your job." Those words hurt far more than the stitches pulling beneath my skin. In that moment, I realized the man I'd married wasn't showing me love. He was showing me exactly how little my pain mattered. The next few days became unbearable. While I shuffled around the kitchen, trying not to cry from the stabbing pain in my abdomen, Daniel barked orders as though nothing had happened. Every grocery bag, every load of laundry, every guest room had to be prepared exactly the way his mother liked it. Whenever I paused to catch my breath, he'd remind me, "Stop acting helpless." At night, after he fell asleep, I quietly sat in the bathroom, fighting tears while checking my bandages for bleeding. My body begged for rest, but my husband demanded perfection, and I began wondering how long I could survive living with someone who treated kindness like weakness. Friday evening brought another surprise. Daniel disappeared into his home office, locking the door behind him for nearly 2 hours. Through the thin walls, I heard muffled phone calls followed by laughter I'd never heard before, confident, almost excited. When he finally emerged, he quickly closed his laptop before I could see the screen. "Family business," he muttered. Yet his expression wasn't the face of a man preparing for relatives to visit. It looked like someone counting down to a carefully planned victory. That strange confidence unsettled me, and for the first time, I wondered whether this family gathering had a purpose far beyond an ordinary reunion. Unable to ignore my instincts, I quietly called Daniel's younger sister, Megan, someone I'd always trusted. I expected her to tell me everyone was excited about the visit. Instead, she sounded confused. "Wait, Daniel told us you insisted we all come because you wanted one last big family gathering before selling the house." My entire body froze. "Selling the house?" I asked. Megan hesitated before replying. "He said you both already agreed." The phone nearly slipped from my trembling hand. I had never discussed selling our home. Not once. Suddenly, every secret phone call, every locked office door, and every strange smile began fitting together like pieces of a terrifying puzzle. That night, sleep never came. I quietly searched through the filing cabinet while Daniel snored upstairs. Most drawers contained ordinary paperwork, but hidden beneath a stack of insurance documents was a thin folder I'd never seen before. Inside were printed emails between Daniel and a real estate investor discussing renovation costs after vacating the current occupant. Attached was a draft agreement listing only Daniel's name as the seller. My stomach twisted violently. The house legally belonged to both of us, yet somehow he'd been planning everything without my knowledge. Then I noticed one handwritten note clipped to the folder. "Family arrives Saturday. Emily won't suspect anything." Those 6 words shattered whatever trust remained. Saturday morning arrived with gray skies and heavy silence. Every movement sent sharp pain through my healing body, but I forced myself downstairs before anyone arrived. Daniel seemed unusually cheerful, humming while arranging chairs in the living room. Around noon, a convoy of vehicles pulled into the driveway. One by one, his parents, siblings, cousins, nieces, nephews, and uncles stepped inside carrying luggage. They smiled warmly, completely unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. Daniel welcomed everyone with exaggerated enthusiasm, before turning toward me with another smug grin. "See," he whispered. "Everything's going exactly according to plan." I looked around the crowded room, gripping the folder hidden beneath my sweater, knowing his carefully built lie was only moments away from collapsing. As everyone settled into the living room, Daniel stood confidently with a glass in his hand, acting like the perfect host. "Before we get comfortable," he announced, "Emily and I have an important family decision to share." He smiled at me as if expecting silent cooperation. Instead, I slowly reached beneath my sweater, pulled out the folder I'd found the night before, and placed it on the coffee table. "Actually," I said calmly, "I think everyone deserves to hear the whole truth before any announcements are made." The room fell silent. Daniel's confident smile disappeared instantly as he recognized the folder lying in front of him. His mother looked from Daniel to me with growing concern. "What truth?" she asked softly. I opened the folder and handed the printed emails to his father first. One by one, the papers passed through the room. Faces that had arrived smiling slowly, filled with disbelief. "Daniel told all of you that I wanted to sell this house," I explained, struggling to remain steady. "He never asked me. While I was recovering from surgery, he secretly planned to sell the home we owned together." Daniel jumped to his feet, insisting everything was a misunderstanding, but nobody interrupted me this time. For once, every eye was focused on him instead of me. Then I revealed the document hidden at the bottom of the folder. It wasn't just a sales agreement. It was a financial statement showing massive personal debt Daniel had secretly accumulated over 2 years. Thousands had disappeared through risky investments, gambling apps, and personal loans I'd never known existed. Selling our home wasn't about creating a better future. It was his desperate attempt to erase his own mistakes. His younger brother stared at him in shock. "You told us Emily wanted a fresh start," he said quietly. Daniel couldn't answer. Every lie he'd carefully built over months was collapsing under the weight of undeniable evidence. The room erupted with questions. His father demanded to know why he'd lied to everyone. His mother burst into tears after realizing Daniel had manipulated the entire family into becoming part of his plan. Then Megan quietly revealed something that stunned everyone even further. 2 weeks earlier, Daniel had asked several relatives to convince me that selling the house was my own idea if I hesitated. They had believed they were helping save a struggling marriage. Instead, they'd unknowingly become pieces in his deception. Daniel looked around desperately for someone to defend him, but every face reflected disappointment instead of support. I slowly stood despite the pain pulling at my stitches. "I begged for 1 week to recover," I said, my voice trembling. "Instead, you expected me to cook, clean, and entertain 12 guests while secretly planning to take away the only place I felt safe." Tears filled my eyes, but I refused to look away. "This house isn't what's broken, Daniel. Our marriage is." His father quietly walked over, placed the house keys in my hand, and turned toward his son. "We're leaving," he said firmly. "No family stands behind lies like this." Within minutes, 12 suitcases were carried back outside, leaving Daniel completely alone. The silence after the last car disappeared felt strangely peaceful. Daniel tried apologizing, promising he'd change, blaming stress, debt, and bad decisions. But some betrayals can't be repaired with words. The following week, I hired an attorney, protected my legal rights, and filed for divorce. Because the sale had never been completed and the documents clearly proved his deception, the court froze every attempt to transfer the property. Months later, I recovered fully, not just from surgery, but from a marriage built on control instead of love. Looking back, I realized the greatest gift wasn't surviving the operation. It was surviving the man who thought my weakness would hide his lies, only to watch everything he'd been hiding come crashing down in front of the very family he tried to manipulate.